Hold on! Both arms around my neck, now!
I can't feel my legs.
Then you don't need them. That's all we need. Count with me.
It's coming down behind us!
Don't look back. Look at the door.
The ceiling came down behind them, and he didn't look back once. He carried her 400 feet and put her on the wet asphalt. Then he was gone. No name, nothing. 11 weeks later, in a ballroom with 200 people in it, a man in a gray suit said it loud enough for all of them. His father burned my sister alive. Ask him. He's standing in your gala in borrowed shoes. Julian set his glass down and turned around. My father signed a report he was told to sign. That's not the same thing, sir. Someone laughed. A phone came up, then 4 more. He didn't do it, Julian said. And I can prove it. With what? 12 years, a closed file, and a warehouse cleaner. With 9 days. The room went quiet. His appeal closes on the 14th. After that, nobody can touch it. Not you, not me. Nobody. Security started forward. Emily raised one hand and they stopped, and she couldn't have said why. You knew who I was, she said, before you picked me up. He looked at her a long moment. Ma'am, you had 14 seconds. That's all I was thinking about. That isn't what I asked you. No, he said, it isn't. He carried her out through water that came over his bootlaces, and the water was warm, which was the thing he would remember longest. She weighed almost nothing. That surprised him. Her arms were locked across his collarbone hard enough to hurt, and her face was against his shoulder, and she was crying without making any sound at all, the way people cry when they have already given up on being heard. Behind them, a filing cabinet went over, and the sound of it hitting the flooded concrete was like a hand slapping the surface of a lake. Don't look back, he said. Look at the door. Just the door. She looked at the door. He got her down the loading ramp and 40 steps past it, and set her on the wet asphalt beside a stack of pallets, and only then did his legs start shaking. Her heel had come off somewhere inside. One foot was bare and filthy. Her red suit was soaked through, and there was ash in her hair, and a gold chain twisted backwards at her throat. Ma'am, can you feel your legs now? I don't know. Then you sit. You sit right here until they come. She caught his wrist. Her hand was very cold. What's your name? He looked at the building. The window frames were burning along the second floor, one after another, like something being read aloud. You're all right, he said. That's all that matters. That isn't what I asked you. He took his wrist back gently, the way you take something out of a child's hand. Then the sirens came up the harbor road, and he did the thing he had already decided to do before he ever went in. He walked away. 6 cars had stopped along the fence line. 6 phones had been up the entire time. Not one door had opened. He passed them without turning his head, and none of them called after him, because a man walking away from a fire in a torn shirt is not a story anybody wants. The bus was $2.75. He had $4.11 and 11 days until payday, so he walked 4 miles. It took him an hour and 40 minutes, and by the end of it, his right arm would not bend past halfway, and the skin along the forearm had gone tight and shiny and had begun to lift. Shiley was still up when he came in, 16 years old, and doing algebra at a kitchen table that wobbled unless you kept a folded receipt under the leg. You smell like a barbecue. Hood job ran late. She looked at his arm. She looked at it a long time. That's not grease. It's grease. Julian, Shiley, it's grease. She went back to her algebra, and he went and sat on the edge of the bathtub with the door shut and ran cold water over his arm for 11 minutes and shook. Because he had recognized her. Not after. Not when they got outside. He had recognized her through the glass of that office door, before he ever put his shoulder into it, and he had gone in anyway, and he did not yet know what that meant about him. At the hospital, a paramedic asked her who had pulled her out. She said she didn't know his name. She did not say the other thing, that when she asked for it, he had looked at her like a man who already knew hers. The cold room at Pier 9 ran at 4 degrees, and his breath came out in a cloud at 6 minutes past 6 the next morning. He worked the pallet jack one-handed. The burn had gone stiff overnight, and the arm would not lift above his ribs, so he learned a new way to turn a load in 4 hours, which is what a body does when there is no version of the day where you stay home. 6 until 2 in the cold rooms. 4:30 until midnight, stripping and recoating restaurant hood systems. Cash, no questions, work that nobody wanted and that paid, because nobody wanted it. $1,860 a month, 2 rooms above a laundromat, and a ceiling that sweated in the winter. Shiley left a plate for him every night, and he ate it standing up. Mrs. Okwu offered us her old couch, she said. For free. Tell her thank you. You mean tell her no? I mean tell her thank you, and then tell her no. That was the rule, and she had known it since she was 9. They did not take. Not casseroles, not envelopes, not couches. It was the only thing in the world Julian owned outright, and he had decided a long time ago that his sister would inherit it, whether she wanted it or not. Across the harbor, in a private suite on the 14th floor of a hospital, with her family's name in brushed steel over the entrance, Emily Masons was refusing to be discharged until somebody answered one question. Nobody in that room knew why she had been in a Harborside Records office at 9 at night in a suit she had worn to a board dinner. She had told her chief of staff she was collecting a folder. She had not said which folder. She had not said that she had signed it out under a name that was not hers. There's no plate, Alejandra Yomi said. No badge. He isn't on any contractor list for that site. Then he came off the street. Ma'am, people don't come off the street. One did. Alejandra slid the tablet across the bedside table. One frame from a fence camera, blown up until it went soft. A shoulder, a jaw, the curve of a burned forearm. No face. Emily looked at it for a long moment, and something in her chest turned over, and she could not have explained it to anyone in that room. Find him. Alejandra didn't move. Alejandra, find him. Ma'am, your uncle already has. They brought him in through the front doors, which was the first mistake, because a man in work boots on marble is a thing a lobby notices. He stood for 19 minutes. There were chairs. Nobody offered him one, and he did not sit in one, because he had learned young that an unoffered chair is a trap. A security supervisor came over eventually with a clipboard, and a voice pitched for the whole room. Sir, deliveries are the East Dock. I'm not a delivery. I was asked to come. Everybody was asked to come. The man smiled at the woman behind the reception desk. You'd be amazed how many people saved somebody last week. Somebody near the elevators laughed. Julian felt the room change temperature. He knew this exactly. He had been 14 the first time. I'll go, he said. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have come up the front. He said sorry. That was the part. The supervisor took his arm. And Emily, coming out onto the mezzanine above them, was 1 second too slow. She saw the hand close on his sleeve. She saw him not pull away. She saw a grown man apologize for standing in a building his own labor had never been welcome in. 1 second. She would think about that second for 11 weeks. Take your hand off him. The supervisor's spine changed shape in front of 40 people. He let go so fast it looked like a burn. She came down the stairs and she did not raise her voice once. He came in the front because I asked him to come in the front. Everyone in this lobby is going to remember that. Then she put an envelope in Julian's hand. He gave it back. It's not charity. It's a reward. It was published. I know what it is, ma'am. She put it in his hand again. He gave it back again, and this time, he folded her fingers over it, carefully, like a man closing a door he was never going to be allowed through. There's a number in there, she said. You haven't even looked at it. That's why I can give it back twice. He signed nothing. He took nothing. He left. And it was not until the elevator had closed behind her that Emily realized he had never once asked what floor she was on. He had walked straight to the right bank of lifts. The visiting room at Ridgeworth smelled like bleach over something the bleach had never quite reached, and the tables were laminate, scarred with 20 years of other people's waiting. His father sat with his hands flat on the surface and did not lift his eyes. Luke was 53 and looked 65. 7 years into 19, 11 counts. The North Quay warehouse had burned for 6 hours and taken 11 people, and the city had grieved for a week and then agreed on a story. And the story was a maintenance supervisor who signed off on a suppression system he should have flagged. Julian had been 12. He had stood behind a barricade close enough to feel the paint blister on the hoardings while his mother was inside. He had not stopped reading Fire since. Not as a job, as a defense. Origin, travel, fuel load, the shape a burn leaves on a wall, and what that shape can and cannot mean. He had taught himself out of code books in a public library that closed at 6, and by 19, he could reconstruct that night better than the men who had closed it. And by 22, he had understood the thing that actually mattered. Being right and being believed are two different economies. He could not afford the second one. The window closes on the 14th of March, he said. 81 days. After that, the statute makes it final and nobody can reopen it. Not a judge, not God. His father looked at the table. I need one witness and $9,400 for the filing and the expert review. That's it. That's the whole wall. You don't have $9,400. No, sir. You don't have 90. No, sir. And he could not say the rest of it out loud. because the rest of it was that the company which owned the docket, and the hospital wing, and the woman he had carried out of a burning office 11 days ago, was the same company he believed had killed his mother. He could not take $1 of her money, not one, because the moment he did, every word he ever said about his father became something a lawyer could hold up in a room and smile at. The guard called time. "Don't come back here," Luke said. Julian stopped halfway out of the chair. Why? His father lifted his eyes for the first time in 7 years, and there was nothing in them at all. Because you're starting to look like a man who thinks he can win. The retrofit line was $11 million, and the board wanted it gone. Emily kept it. She could not tell them why. She could not tell them that she had woken at 4 that morning with the smell of standing water in her nose, or that she had spent 19 months in a chair she had never wanted, since a stroke took her father up to a quiet room with a view of the harbor he built. She had not been alone in a room since she was 22. Alejandra 4 steps behind, always, with a tablet and a list that never got shorter. Emily had never learned what she thought about anything, only what the company thought, and how to say it so that people believed it. Her uncle sat at the far end of the table and said nothing about the 11 million, which frightened her more than an argument would have. That evening, Jose Daniel put a small ring box on the table between them and did not open it. "You don't have to say anything tonight." "You've been saying that for 4 months. I'll say it for 4 more. He had put $400 million into a firm that was 3 weeks from collapse, and he had asked for terms that no reasonable person would call cruel. He had not written the clause about the engagement. Her uncle had written it. This Jose Daniel had simply never asked for it to be removed, and had never once leaned on it, and would have died before mentioning it in a room with other people in it. He was patient and decent and correct about nearly everything, and anybody watching would have said he had earned her. 2 days later, Emily approved a facilities contract for 6 harbor properties. Hood systems, extraction, deep cleaning, nights. She had gone through 4 layers of procurement to find the name of a small outfit that took cash work on the east side. It was the only way she could think of to pay a man who would not be paid. "You could have just sent the check," Alejandra said. Emily didn't answer. She was watching the service elevator indicator above her office door, and it was going down. It had never gone down at 7 o'clock in 19 months. He was alone in a service corridor on the 9th floor at 11 at night when she found him, and he did not stop working when she came in. "You're on my floor." "I'm on the schedule, ma'am." "I know. I put you there." "I know that too." She watched him for a while. Then she asked about the drawing taped to the wall, because she had run out of other things to say, and he answered without any performance at all. "These heads are mounted wrong. Those are certified." "Yes, ma'am. They're certified and they're wrong." He pointed with the handle of a scraper. "Ceiling's got a beam pocket every 4 feet. Heads under the beam, water hits the beam and stops. Whole aisle stays dry while the ceiling above it doesn't. An engineer signed that. An engineer signed it in an office." She had a licensed fire protection engineer in the building at 8 the next morning, and the man went pale and said it would need to be redesigned, and Emily stood in the corridor afterwards and understood that she had just watched a night cleaner correct a professional and be right. She defended him to a board member at lunch. Julian never knew that. He was asleep at the time, on a couch, with his arm across his eyes. That night she came down again and asked to see the burn. He held it out. She turned his forearm toward the light with 2 fingers, and neither of them said anything, and neither of them mentioned it afterwards. Not once, not ever. What Julian could not know was that Emily had pulled the North Key file out of archive that afternoon and sat with it unopened on her desk for 2 hours. She had not read it. She had only looked at the case number on the tab because the case number felt familiar, and she could not think of a single reason on earth why it should. "Where did you learn to read a burn like that?" He picked up his bag. He started to answer, and the corridor door opened behind them, and a voice said, "Emily, your uncle's upstairs." The photograph was grainy, and it had been taken from the stairwell, and it showed almost nothing. Her 2 fingers, his forearm, the edge of a scraper on the floor. Her uncle slid it across the mahogany without a word, and let it sit there. "He was on the schedule," Emily said. "I'm sure he was." That was all. He asked her nothing, and accused her of nothing, and she would understand much later that this was because he had never intended to move against her at all. 9 days after that, Shiley came home holding a letter and did not take her coat off. The scholarship was rescinded. No reason given. Review of eligibility criteria. Regret. The letterhead belonged to a foundation her brother had never applied to and could not have named, chaired by a man he had never met. "What did you do?" she said. "It came out cracked." "Julian, what did you do?" He didn't answer, because the answer was that he had let a woman hold his arm for 4 seconds in a stairwell. That was the first night he thought seriously about the envelope. He had given it back twice. He had not looked at the number. He sat on the bathtub edge for a long time and did the arithmetic anyway. 9,400 for the filing, and whatever a girl's future costs, and 81 days had become 49. On Sunday, he went to a storefront church on Delacroix Street because he had run out of places to sit down. 30 folding chairs, a space heater, a congregation that came late and stayed after. The old man at the front was 78, and he preached that night on mercy. And twice during the sermon, he looked at the back row and lost his place, and Julian thought nothing of it. Afterwards, Julian waited by the door to say thank you, because his mother had raised him to. Elder Jason looked at him the way you look at a bill you have been hiding from for a decade. "I know whose son you are," he said. "I've known since you were 12. The winter gala had 200 people in it, and steel letters on the wall, and Emily in the center of a room she owned. Julian was there because a facilities contractor is required to be on site for a live event, and because somebody in her uncle's office had made very certain of it. It took 11 minutes. His father burned my sister alive," her uncle said, loud enough for all of them. "Ask him. He's standing in your gala in borrowed shoes." Julian set his glass down and turned around. The rest of the room learned it in the next 90 seconds. The docket, the surname. 11 dead on the North Quay. 11 weeks in her buildings, in her elevators, on her floors at night. A phone came up. Then 4 more. Emily went cold in public because she could not afford not to. She said nothing. She stood with her hands at her sides while her uncle dismantled a man in front of the board and the press, and Jose Daniel, and she said nothing. And Julian did not defend himself. Not one word about himself. "My mother was in that building," he said. "She'd been on shift since 6, so don't stand in this room and tell me about your sister like I don't know what the inside of that day feels like." His voice was still level. That was the terrible part. "My father is 53 years old, and he hasn't looked me in the eye in 7 years. He signed a report a man from your company told him to sign. That's not the same thing. It's never been the same thing." Then he turned to Emily, and his voice went somewhere else entirely, and this was the only time in his life that anybody saw it. "You want to know the thing I've never said out loud, Ma?" He was shaking. "I knew who you were. Through the glass. Before I put my shoulder in that door, I knew exactly whose daughter you were, and whose name was on that building. And I stood there. God forgive me, I stood there. 200 people. Nobody moved. And then I counted 14 seconds, and I went in anyway. Because that's what she'd have done. That's who my mother was. And I have thought about those seconds every single night since, and I still don't know if I'm a good man or just a slow one." He put the keys on the table, the contracts, the envelope, still sealed, 11 weeks unopened. "Give the work to somebody else. She'll need it more than me." He was almost at the door when she said his name. He didn't stop walking. "I'd do it again," he said. "I'd do it again tomorrow, and I'd still walk home." For 11 days, there was nothing. Emily signed documents she was not reading. Julian took a double because the flat was too quiet, and because Shiley had started speaking to him in the voice you use with strangers. Jose Daniel came to see her on the 4th day and did not sit down. "You've been choosing something since October," he said. "I always knew you'd choose something. I only ever asked that you choose it honestly." He put the small box in his pocket and left it there. "Don't marry me to be fair to me, Emily. That would be the cruel version." On the 6th day, an old man in a storefront church took a shoebox down from the top shelf of a closet where it had sat for 12 years. Inside was his original inspection report on the North Quay warehouse. The suppression system had failed certification. It could not be certified. He had written it honestly, and then a man from the company had sat across from him and mentioned, mildly, that his son's contracting license was under review, and that these things had a way of resolving themselves. He had signed a second report. 6 weeks later, 11 people died. He had asked God for forgiveness every night for 12 years, and had never once asked a human being, because the night he did, he would stop being a man who preached mercy, and become a man who bought his son's future with 11 lives. He walked into a lawyer's office on a Tuesday morning, and gave up the license, the congregation, and the name, all 3, in under an hour. And that same afternoon, Emily finally opened the archive file with the case number that had felt familiar, and read it to the last page, and found the reason. She had seen it before. She had been 19. It had been in her father's study, in a folder her uncle brought over the week after the funeral. Underneath the inspector's signature line, in the empty space where a name should have been, Somebody had written one word in pencil: handled. She knew the handwriting. The hearing room had 9 days left on the clock, and a 78-year-old man being sworn in with a hand that would not stay still. Emily testified after him. She testified against her uncle, against 12 years of her family's record, against the wall with her own name on it in brushed steel. And she had resigned the chair at 8 that morning, before she was asked to, so that no lawyer alive could stand up and call her testimony a boardroom maneuver. She walked in owning nothing. That was the point of it. Afterwards, in the corridor, Julian did not forgive her. Not for a long time. "The fire didn't make us even," he said. "Neither did today. You stood in that ballroom and you didn't say one word." "I know. I don't want an apology, Ma. I've had apologies." "Then tell me. Say his name, out loud, in front of the people who spent 12 years pretending he didn't have one." So she turned around and she said it. Loudly, clearly, to a corridor full of reporters and lawyers and men who had known better. Luke Adeyemi. He didn't do it. Her uncle was arrested that evening. It took one sentence and nobody in this story needed to watch it. 19 days later, a man in gray walked out through a gate in the same jacket he went in wearing and stopped in the car park and lifted his eyes. Because a name is the one thing they can take from you that you cannot earn back alone. And someone has to be willing to lose theirs to give yours back. If this story moved you, tap the like button, subscribe so the next one finds you, and tell me in the comments what part of the world you are watching from tonight.